Goeiemorgen, goeiemiddag, goeienaand. Whether it is morning, afternoon, or evening where you are, it's always a good time to look at new plants coming into this plant loving house. My name is Shanae, and in this video, we are going to look at the new plants that I just got, look at what the import process looks like in South Africa, our various delivery options that we have to get our plants to our house, and we're also going to look at how I prepare my plant roots for a semi-hydro pot up, and we are also going to pot up these plants. So if that sounds interesting to you, let's get into it. So let's start off with talking about the buying process and the import process. So both of these sellers had WhatsApp groups, and they would post pictures of the plants that they had available for sale in these groups. If you find a plant that you want to purchase, then you reach out to the sellers individually to add it to your cart or to your order. The seller would then acknowledge receipt of your order, and there would kind of be a little bit of a conversation around just your order. There would be a pre-order period, so probably about a month and a half, 2 month period where the pre-orders are open. Once the end of that period hits, then the seller would start sending you invoices. You are required to pay a deposit, which as an accountant for small companies, I absolutely love that practice. So you gather funding from your buyers to purchase these plants, so you don't have to take any financial risk at all. Before local shipment to you as a buyer occurs, the rest of the payment is then due. Shipping for these plants was very, very quick. I think about a day to 3 days, which is phenomenal. Mind you, I did ask sellers not to acclimate these plants, so I want to do the acclimation myself. So as soon as the plants arrived with them, they then sent the plants onto me almost immediately. Some people are not familiar or not comfortable to acclimate the plants themselves. So the sellers actually have a nice option where they would acclimate the plant for about a couple of weeks, and then only once the plant is established here in South Africa and in the South African environment or climate, they would then ship the plants to the individual buyers. So that was just a quick summary of how the buying and import process worked. And now we're going to look at the actual plants that I got. So the first plant that I want to show you is the Anthurium Andean Moon, which is a BCAF cross with Debile. That is the mother plant. And that plant was crossed with the Waroqueanum dark form. And this is what the plant looks like. So it's just a little seedling, but it came in immaculate condition. And with no surprise, this came from FuzzyRoots. So FuzzyRoots is run by a lovely lady called Tiffany. She actually posted a 4-part series on her Instagram of her nursery, which is in her backyard. It's absolutely amazing. I am so excited with Tiffany and that hybrids that she is doing, especially the philodendron ones. I know that those ones are not really common, especially in South Africa. It's a little bit more difficult to do the whole pollination part. So I'm really excited to see what Tiffany brings us in the South African market in terms of philodendron hybrids. Her sister is also involved in the business. Her name is Stacy, and the two of them are just the perfect deal. I absolutely love ordering plants from FuzzyRoots. They always provide the most immaculate plants. So Tiffany and Stacy, if you guys are watching, thank you so much for this beautiful plant, but not just this one, for all of the beautiful plants that you guys provide, as well as the good advice that you always have for us whenever we ask it. And long may your business continue. So this plant was delivered via the locker delivery system. So let me show you how that went down. I believe the seller sent the plant on a Monday and I received it on the Tuesday. So really fast delivery. In the morning, I received a WhatsApp message from the courier company saying that my package has been dropped in the locker and ready for pickup. They keep your parcel in the locker for about 36 hours. You have to pick it up within that time. Otherwise, you will have to call them and make alternative arrangements to get your package. The locker that I chose for delivery is just down the road, so it only took me a few minutes to get there. In the WhatsApp message, they also securely send you a code to enter at the locker machine to open the compartment where your package is in. This specific machine does have a bit of a fault to it. in it that it doesn't recognize that I took the package, and on the screen I had to confirm that I got it. I really like the convenience of this locker system because I can plan my day to pick up the package that suits my day, as opposed to a door to door delivery where I have to stay at home all day to monitor when my package will arrive. I haven't had many problems with this delivery method before, but I know that others have, and like all things in life, nothing is perfect. I'll still choose this option every day of the week. Then I head back home, but I could not contain my excitement and had to do a happy dance. My favorite song also came on the radio, so that also helped. I couldn't get out of the car quick enough to take my new plants into this plant loving house. Look how excited my dog is to see my new plant. If you're asking, yes, I am still dancing. How can you not with such a beautiful plant in your house? I'm so excited to see that one grow. Anyways, I have 3 more plants that I need to show you. And these plants I got from a company called Exotic Flora Emporium. Try saying that fast 3 times in a row. Exotic Flora Emporium, Exotic Flora Emporium, Exotic Flora. Alright. Let's get to the actual plants. The first one that I'm going to be showing you is this little small seedling. This one is called HU King of Spades. And if you watched my previous videos, you would have seen that I do have a King of Spades hybrid, which I thought was a pure King of Spades, but later found out that it's actually a hybrid. So I'm really excited to add this one into my collection and see how beautiful this one will grow. The second one that I got was a Anthurium Goliath. And I absolutely love the dark leaf with the beautiful limited veins that it has. I think it's going to grow up to be a really, really nice plant. I can't wait. And then last but not least, which is the only one that was actually on my wish list that I've been looking for a very long time. So Keith, thank you so much for sourcing this plant for me. And this is the Anthurium King of Clarinervium. How absolutely beautiful. It does have a new leaf that kind of grew in the transit period, but of course it's not gonna develop quite nicely. But if I just look at the veining and compare to one of the last leaves, it would have probably been much bigger. So really, really healthy roots on literally all of these, as well as the fuzzy root ones. I'm really, really happy with the quality that we got during this import. And I must say, the local sellers always choose really, really good sellers that they buy from that provide us absolutely amazing plants. I'm really happy about that. These plants actually took a little bit of a trip around South Africa. So the seller, who is Keith, absolutely amazing guy, absolutely love his energy. The seller actually stays about 20 minutes from where I am, and I didn't know that at the time and decided to ask them to ship this plant to me instead. I ordered a couple of plants from the seller a couple of months ago, I think in February, and they also delivered it to my house. But I moved 2 months ago and I didn't tell the seller that I moved and gave them my new address where they needed to send the plants to. So they ended up sending it to the old address. They did it overnight, so technically the plant should have reached me overnight. Everybody in the surrounding areas received their plants within the same day, and some of the outlying areas received it the next day. So I didn't receive my plant on that day, which was the Thursday. So I got a call from the delivery guy that delivered my packages at the previous house that I used to stay at. And he basically said that the new tenants say I don't stay there anymore. What is my new address? And I then realized the plants took about a 2.5 hour flight out to my old address instead of just a 20-minute drive to my new one. It took a couple of days for me to provide them with the correct address and try and reroute the plants to me. And I think I then managed to get the plants on the next Thursday. So a week after the seller actually sent the plants to me. But when I opened it, the plants was in perfect condition. Of course, with imports, they have to send the plants bare rooted, which means there are no soil on the plants and the plants is shipped in sphagnum moss. Luckily, by the time that the plants reached me, the moss was just about drying out. So it was still getting a bit of moisture, so the roots actually still looked quite nice. But with all imports, my very first thing that I always do is put these plants in water. Been in water for a couple of days now, and I think the roots are pretty much hydrated at this point. So again, Keith, thank you so much for these plants. So in the next section, we are going to head out to my bathroom, which is just behind this wall. And I'm going to show you what I do to prepare my plant root system for semi-hydro potting. So let's go. So I'm in the bathroom right now. I hope the echo is not too bad. Right now we are going to clean our roots and make sure that it's ready to go into semi-hydro. I can see on these roots there are still a little bit of soil on it. So the plants were in soil before it was cleaned, and now it's going to go into semi-hydro. So this process that I'm going to be showing you now is the exact same process as what I would do when I transfer a plant from soil to semi-hydro. The only thing that has been already done for me is that the roots have been cleaned of most of the soil. If there's a little bit left, not to worry, the plant will still do fine and the root system will continue to do well. So let me show you what I do. I use this tray to prevent the debris from going down the drain and potentially clogging the pipes. I'll start by just running my fingers down the roots to remove the already rotten roots. Then I'll remove the secondary roots, as these have a very high possibility of not adapting to semi-hydro and eventually will rot. I don't think keeping them will cause root rot that will spread and you will have to be worried about it, but it is just going to be a schlep to eventually remove these rotten roots. I did go ahead and clean up the little bit of soil traces, but that's only because this plant was in water for a few days and a layer, probably built up by the soil around the roots, were easy to scrape off with my finger. If I was transferring a plant from scratch, I probably won't bother with the last 5% of the soil remains on the roots. I also noticed that the roots already started to grow above some of the smaller leaves, so I did go ahead and remove them as well, so I can bury those roots in the substrate to promote more root growth. One final rinse to remove all the loosened debris, and our roots are now ready for semi-hydro pot-up. Okay, so now we are ready to pot up our plants. I think we have everything. We have our plants over here. We have the pots that we need. We have the liquor as well as the pot. So the first one that we are going to pot up is the King Clarinervium. And seeing that the roots are so large already, we're going to go with the bigger pot. This is an 18 centimeter pot, but I think this is much smaller. I think this is about 15 centimeters. So it kind of just sits in the pot like this. I am going to make it a self-watering pot, so I'm going to use the string that it came with and just put it through the holes and part of the plant that way. This one that it came with, the string is a little bit too short. It doesn't hang quite nicely, so I'm going to use a longer string. Yeah, I think that is a little bit better. So I'm going to pull the string a little bit and put some lacquer underneath the string, so that when the string wicks up the water, that there is more of the lacquer that it kind of covers. Now that our lacquer is in, I'm going to try and show you without dropping the lacquer. But you can see the string in there, so I'm kind of just putting it a little bit above that lacquer layer. And I kind of just fold the lacquer with about a centimeter or two, so not too much. It does have these little openings to allow for some airflow to come in. So I am going to put a pond just on top to cover that string, because I don't want the roots of the plants to touch that string at all at this point in time. Once the roots grow and it grows towards that, then that's fine, because that roots will be used to that. But these current roots, they're not used to it, so they will most definitely rot if they do come into contact with such a lot of water. So let me quickly put in the pond. So next up, we'll put in our plant. So I'm just going to turn the plant so that the roots kind of go into a little bit of a circular motion and the plant can sit nicely in the pot. And I think that should be fine because I still want the root that I can see on the top to be covered. This one is probably not going to last too long for this plant, so I'm probably going to have to put it in a bigger pot. But let's see how this one goes and hopefully promote some new root growth on this one. So let me fill up the rest of the pot. So now our king Clarinervium is potted up in pon. And let's quickly have a chat around where I get pon and leca from. Alright, so the leca that I use, I get it off of Takealot. I like the convenience that they would deliver the very next day. And on the container it says that it actually came from GrowKit. So you can find them at www.growkit.co.za. But Takealot, very quick, it's very easy, it's very cost effective as well. So this pun is called NicNacNode pun. Interesting enough, this is actually the very first brand of pun that I used when I started my semi-hydro journey. So I really like this pun. Since then, I have tried various other suppliers. They also supply pun within the South African market, but I've only found two that I really like, and this is one of them. So I keep on going back to this original one. So I'm so glad that I managed to get good pun from the beginning. In the next import, that should be in the next 2 weeks or so, I will also then put that up into the other supplier that I also really like, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about that one. But these ones I really like because I think they are pre-washed, so I don't have to rinse them too much. But I just do a quick rinse of it, and all of the, I guess, dust particles that sits in it would immediately come out. So I really like that convenience because I don't really like wasting a lot of water. So I really like the fact that it does come quite pre-rinsed already. I don't have to do a lot in the beginning to get the pond ready. My plants really have just loved these things. You should see the growth that I've seen on these plants. If you look at my previous video, the then versus now 10 Anthurium video, you should be able to see how those plants perform in this pond. The other thing that I also really like about this pond, which probably a lot of pond does, but there are some brands that I found that I don't see them quite quickly, is the stones are quite light. So you're able to quickly see when the plant needs water, when the substrate is dried out. So that I really like about this plant. But hopefully with a self-watering pot, there will be no drying out at all. So I really like these pots. So this is our Anthurium Clarinervium. So the very next step that we are going to do, and I'll do it in the next import because I think this video is quite long already. But the next thing that I'm going to be doing is just give it a light water. Both the pon and the leca I've just rinsed so they are wet already. So I'm just going to give it a light water just to make sure that the substrate do settle around the roots quite nicely. But I'm not going to keep a reservoir on this plant yet. For the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to water as if this plant was in soil. So like I just said, this plant gives me a good indication as to when the substrate is dry, just via the color. So I'll be able to monitor this plant, and it'll also give me an opportunity to get to know this plant and its watering needs. So I would be able to see whether it needs water in 3 days, 4 days, 5 days time, and that is also going to help me in the plant's journey. Alright, so this is our Anthurium Clarinervium. So I'm going to do the rest of them real quickly offline, and then I'm going to come back to put in the plant labels that I just made for them. Alright, so now our plants are all potted up. So these plants did come with some name tags, but I'm not going to use it. I just made my own because I really wanted to do something fun and funny. I do spend a lot of time with my plants, so I want to make sure that it is a fun place. I'm going to show you what funny or interesting sticker I made for them. So for the King Clarinervium, I think I mentioned it earlier in the video, but this was on my 2025 wish list. So I made a very simple sticker that just says 2025 wish list plant. So he can go on and boast with all of its neighbors that he was part of the wish list plant list. So next we do have the Andean Moon crossed with the dark-horned Waroqueanum. And as you know, the Waroqueanum is also called the Queen Anthurium. So I decided to do a play on words with the Queen. So I just said, I am royalty. So this one is going to tell its neighbors that it is part of the royal family. And then with our KOSHU, I've decided to go with I'm the real deal. And if you watch my previous videos, so I think I even mentioned it earlier in the video that I actually bought a KOS for King of Spades previously, and I thought that it was an actual KOS. 2 months ago, the seller said to me it actually looks more like a hybrid and not a pure KOS. So this one now has the boasting right to say to the other one, I am the real deal. And then last but not least, this is Anthurium Goliath. If you know the story of David and Goliath, you would know Goliath was a giant. And David was of course much smaller than him, but David managed to win the battle that the two of them had by throwing a stone. And if you know pun that I use as the substrate, you'll know that it is actually a combination of a couple of rocks. So I kind of play on that whole story. I just said, a rock took me out, now I live in them. So I think that is quite funny. Like I say, I spend a lot of time with my plants. I like to make these little tags just so that it's a little bit funny or a little bit interesting when I do see it. So like I said, I do have another couple of plants that is on the way. I think it should arrive next week, I believe. But I'll be doing another video seeing that you guys know what the import process now looks like based on this video. That video is going to be pretty much a potting up type of video, so I'll be doing a lot more close-up videos so that you can see exactly what the potting up process looks like step by step. Alright, that brings us to the end of this week's video. Thanks so much for watching along. I hope you enjoyed seeing what our import process looks like in South Africa, as well as the delivery process. And I hope you enjoyed seeing how I prepare my plants for going from a soil substrate to a pond substrate, as well as the potting up of these plants. And of course, looking at what I managed to get in South Africa. So I hope that you guys have a lekker rest of your day. Bye bye.